Hello, hello, wonderful beings. Welcome back to Spiritual Self Mastery. Today is going to be a serious message, okay, to all awakened beings, all people that are aware about a lot of the different things that are happening in the world. And this was a message strongly urged to me to send to you guys, a strong message from Spirit. So here it goes. So, my friends, we live in quite a world, to say the least, right? We live in a world that, if we're completely truthful, we live in a world, especially in the 3D world, not in the 5D world, and in our own inner state of being, but in the 3D world in general. It is a very, it is a dark place. I mean, there's a lot of dark things that are actually happening. So now this is actually one of the biggest dilemmas right now. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys probably crossed your minds for all the people that actually went down the rabbit hole of truth on a lot of the different dark things that are actually happening in this world. And now the big question remains, right? The big dilemma within the spiritual community with a lot of people. Because a lot of people are, good, kind-hearted, right? We try to focus on the positive, on the love and light type thing. But there's also a part, so let's talk about that. So there's a lot of darkness happening in the world. So should we never ever talk about the darkness and just keep focusing on the light, right? And the love? Because there's two different camps or two different views on this. A lot of people say that because of the manifestation process and that whatever we focus on grows, and this is a very true statement, right? Whatever we focus on grows. So a lot of people will believe that, okay, well, we shouldn't focus too much down the rabbit hole and down the dark stuff, because subconsciously on the spiritual plane we will actually feed into that reality, right? Or we would feed into that negative energy into actually growing it stronger. And I completely understand this point of view. But here's the second point of view also, right? The second point of view is that, well, what happens to darkness, right, when it goes unchecked? What happens, so we have light and we have darkness in this world, right? Light and dark. It's the both polarities that exists through infinity, probably, into this plane, right? The yin and the yang in constant battle, right? Chasing their tails, right? The good and the bad. I don't believe we will always, we will be able to fully eradicate the bad, because there's always phases of more good controlling the world, and there's phases of more bad controlling the world, and eventually everything kind of like comes back into balance, because it doesn't have a choice. Because like the pendulum goes on, swings on one way for way too long, and then people can't do it anymore, and then the pendulum kind of like swings back onto the other side, and then it kind of like finds like kind of like a middle ground, but sometimes it's always slightly more in the dark or slightly more in the light, right? So for a long time in the age of Pisces, we were in and even right now, like still a lot in the dark, right? But now as we're ushering into the age of Aquarius, right, we're everything becomes exposed, right? The light exposes everything. The light exposes all the darkness, right? No one can actually hide anymore. That's why a lot of people actually feel right now you're sensitive to energies and how things are actually going in the spiritual plane, and also in reality in general, with all the different dimensions, since everything is interconnected. Time is actually speeding up. It seems to be speeding up. Days just flies by just like that. Weeks just flies by just like that. Months flies by just like that. Everything seems to be happening at a much faster pace. I believe that's because we're ushering into the age of Aquarius. We already started it, right? And everything becomes more exposed. All the darkness's plans, I guess, gets exposed so quickly. So that's why the light already won. The light always won. Always wins in the end. You know, that's how it goes, because the light is the strongest. The good and the goodness of humanity always wins in the end. But, you know, darkness will, you know, will make its own show, so to speak, right? To try to show, you know, a show of force, of control, ego, and all that dark stuff, right? So I was talking about, right, all the people that try to focus, you know, in the spiritual community, oh, just focus on the love and light. We don't want to give energy to that, to the darker timelines, or we don't want to merge with the darker timelines, right, as we're feeding into it, so we don't want to talk about it or whatever. And I understand this possibility too, right? Because everything is energy, and what you focus on grows. But now the second point of view is that there's also what happens with darkness when it goes unchecked, right? Everything is light and dark. So what happens is that so the second point of view is that when you don't shed light on darkness for long enough, well, guess what? Darkness groups up together and grows stronger, because the light, we're all nice and we want the best for the world until it's almost too late, and then we have to regroup, but we're much stronger, and then we overpower the darkness, right? So anyways, so the light isn't really well organized. The darkness is very well organized, right? They have their strings everywhere in society, right? And there's a lot of dark stuff happening there too, but we don't want to focus too much on that. But at the same time, the second point of view, I'm gonna finally come to it, is, so what are we doing with that, right? Are we just gonna let darkness run free without ever shedding light onto it because we don't want to feed into that possible timeline? You know, or I understand this scenario, but also if darkness goes unchecked for long enough, there's no light shedding onto the darkness. We don't want to focus onto the darkness, but at the same time, darkness keeps growing. And at some point, darkness, the dark ones, let's just say like that, on this plane of existence, keeps growing and grouping together, and, you know, will show their faces a lot more into trying to control their lives, into trying to control this reality, right? With all of the AI stuff that's coming up down the pipe. What do we do, right? Do we never focus on the darkness because we don't want to feed into that reality? But at the same time, darkness groups and keeps growing, and at some point it will be inevitable. We won't have a choice but to actually talk about it, as dark as it seems. So my answer to that is, it's important that we shed light onto some of the dark stuff that's happening in the world, but we don't want to be focusing too much on it. You know what I mean? We want to be shedding light onto it so people can make their own research, but we don't want to be focusing on and on and on and on and on, because if we keep focusing on and on and on and on it, then we actually feed into the energy. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing to actually shed the light onto the darkness plans and what's happening, so people can actually wake up more, and we can actually, you know, go back into balance. So anyways, this is the message for all of you awakened beings, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and sending love and light to all of you. Peace and good luck. We'll make it. Love wins.